And viewers, let's shift to the talk focus story here on NewsX World this hour. Hong Kong authorities are still investigating the city's deadliest fire in decades, which has now claimed at least 151 lives. Police are continuing their search of the 7 towers at Wang Fu Court, finding bodies in stairwells on rooftops as many residents were trapped while trying to escape. Over 40 people are still unaccounted for. Investigations reveal that contractors used substandard materials, including a green mesh on scaffolding, which did not meet fire safety standards. These materials were hidden in hard-to-reach areas to avoid inspection. Authorities are facing challenges in identifying all victims due to the severe damage, with some bodies being reduced to ash. Let's take a look at what Hong Kong police has said.
直至到今日下晝4點鐘，已經證實死亡嘅人數咧係一共為151名。咁而我哋都唔排除咧呢個數字咧可能會上。
Let's now welcome Madhav Nalapit, who's the director of editorial at the Sunday Guardian, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you, sir, for joining us here at NewsX World and speaking to us. Now, this is a major tragedy that has unfolded. The death toll in Hong Kong fire incident has now risen to 151. There are multiple issues to be discussed, starting from corruption to the crackdown on dissenters by China, the invoking of the sedition law. How do you see these developments in the wake of the upcoming local election?
Look, I'd like to say that there is a lot of corruption in China, let's be honest, and there are anti-corruption drives there, but those drives are mostly to root out political opponents of the group in power in the Communist Party of China, those who are in a slightly different setup than the members of the group that are loyal to the current leadership led by Xi Jinping. Well, many of them have fallen victim to the corruption cases against them. And the reality is corruption is so pervasive. Almost everybody there is making money because official salaries are a joke. They're so small. You can't afford anything. You can't afford schooling. You can't afford even food. I mean, some reasonably good food on the salary that you get. Even senior civil servants get relatively low salaries. So corruption is widespread, there's no question about it. But the Hong Kong fire is a great tragedy. Our condolences go out to all the people who have died there and all the people who are missing and believed to be dead, as well as our best wishes go to those who are grievously injured. But I'd like to say that unfortunately, corruption is a part of life in China, and this kind of fire cannot be kept hidden. I mean, there are many problems like this that are kept hidden by official media. This is too big to be hidden. And frankly, it just shows what corruption can do, because you have inflammable material that is bamboo, and you're talking about this wire mesh. It cannot be wire, it must be some inflammable material. And I mean, really causing the fire to spread and causing all those terrible deaths. So I think this is something that's too big to hide. And I think it has definitely led to a crisis of confidence in the ability of the Hong Kong government to police corruption, especially those who are corrupt have got the blessings of those who are in power in Beijing. Thank you.
Mr. Nalapit, if I'm allowed to take another question from you here, do you think the tragedy is also a test for Beijing's grip on Hong Kong?
Look, there's no question that the response to tragedy has been good. There's no doubt about that. But the tragedy should not have taken place. As they say in medical science, prevention is much better than cure. And this could be prevented if non-flammable material had been used in the scaffolding and if highly flammable material had been avoided. So quite frankly, it was a very preventable fire, and it shows that even in Hong Kong, which once had a very relatively clean government, I mean, you know, one important thing about Hong Kong was the salaries were quite high compared to those in mainland China. But today I'm told there's some effort to level the salaries. And let's be honest, Today, Hong Kong is no different from Shanghai or Guangzhou or any of the cities in mainland China. It's been brought under the direct heel of the Communist Party, irrespective of the promise made during the time of the Hong Kong handover, 1997 something, if I recall, that for 50 years there will not be any repeat. There will be a kind of an autonomous government in Hong Kong for the next 50 years. Well, before that, autonomy has been smashed. The rule of Beijing has been completely established everywhere. And I'm afraid that rule has brought not only a reduction of salaries relative to what they were pre this particular crackdown by the communist authorities, but a lot more corruption. And I think this fire is a fire that demonstrates the fire of corruption that is basically burning all over China and frankly doing immense damage. And I repeat again, they would have tried to hide this, the folks in Beijing, but this is just too big to hide. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you for your comment there. Of course, a tragic incident, but many lessons to learn from the Hong Kong high-rise fire tragedy. And with that, we move on to another big development from South Asia. Now, a Bangladesh court has sentenced a British lawmaker, Tulip Siddiq, to 2 years in prison and her mother, Sheikh Rehana, to 7 years for their involvement in a corruption case linked to the acquisition of lucrative land plots in Dhaka. Public prosecutor Khan Moinul Hassan has accused Siddiq of influencing her aunt, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who took 3 plots for herself and her children. Listen in to the statement.
7 বছরের কারাদণ্ড 1 লক্ষ টাকা জরিমানা এবং অনাদায়ে 6 মাসের জেল টিউলিপ সিদ্দিককে 2 বছরের কারাদণ্ড 1 লক্ষ টাকা জরিমানা অনাদায়ে 6 মাসের কারাদণ্ড শেখ হাসিনা সহ আরো 14 জন আসামিকে 5 বছর কারাদণ্ড 1 লক্ষ টাকা করে জরিমানা এবং অনাদায়ে 6 মাসের দণ্ড টিউলিপ সিদ্দিক ব্রিটিশ পার্লামেন্টের একজন মেম্বার হিসাবে অধিকতর ক্ষমতার অধিকারী হয়ে তাহার খালা শেখ হাসিনাকে প্রভাবিত করেছেন যেহেতু শেখ হাসিনা ইতিপূর্বে তার নিজের নামে এবং তার 2 সন্তানের নামে 3টি প্লট নিয়েছিলেন সেই জন্য টিউলিপ সিদ্দিকী তার খালাকে এই কথা বলেই প্রভাবিত করেছিলেন যে যেহেতু আপনি 3টি প্লট নিয়েছেন আমার মা এবং ভাই বোনদেরকে 3টি প্লট দিতে হবে
Siddiq had previously resigned from her role as a UK Treasury Minister in January due to controversy over her family ties. The case is separate from her financial links to Hasina's supporters, which led to her resignation earlier. Now, Sheikh Hasina was also sentenced to 5 years in prison for her involvement in the land project, and her mother, Sheikh Rehana, received 7 years. Hasina is also facing a death sentence for crimes against humanity related to the last year's crackdown on protesters. And I would now want to welcome back Madhav Nalapit, editorial director at the Sunday Guardian, into the discussion here, sir. Now, there are many nuances in the case. First, to begin with, Tulip claims she's not even a Bangladeshi citizen, but is being tried as one. How is that going to play a role in her conviction?
Look, the fact of the matter is there is no real existing legal system in Bangladesh. Anything is an illegal legal system, so to speak. And, basically that is what is happening in Bangladesh. This is what is called a kangaroo court. And the kangaroo court will basically decide what the extremists who are in power now, unfortunately. Sheikh Hasina was corrupt. She was incompetent. I quite agree. For the last 3, 4 years, 5 years, her rule was insufferable. But what has happened is Bangladesh has been taken over by a far worse crew. The same people who are descendants, the children and grandchildren of those who fought against the liberation of Bangladesh, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Sheikh Hasina's father. Now, the fact of the matter is that Sunday Guardian is proud to carry a very detailed report about what is happening in Bangladesh. And I would encourage everybody to go on to Sunday Guardian Live and read that report. The fact of the matter is, extremism has taken a violent grip there. Minorities, the Christians, the Hindus, the Buddhists, they are subjected to terrible persecution. Moderate Muslims are subject to persecution, and former leaders of the Awami League are subject to persecution, unfortunately, in many cases, to their execution by legal or illegal means. And I said there's nothing legal now going on there. So basically, illegal means basically, sentencing people who are opposed to you politically. It's exactly what we see happening in China, for example. And I'd like to say it's a shame that Bangladesh, which was once, frankly, a very fast growing, developing country, has now slipped badly and is now no longer growing. It's in fact suffering from a recession, and lakhs of people are being thrown out of work. And this is creating problems among the youth, especially. The very youth who basically mobilized against Sheikh Hasina have now begun to mobilize against the junta in power and the extremist coterie around that junta. So very frankly, I think this is a very sad situation. Bangladeshi people deserve better, and I hope that they will get better than the government that they have now. Thank you.
So a very crucial point here is also that the trial was held in absentia without her in presence, and that was also the case with Sheikh Hasina. Now my question is, Sheikh Hasina has been ousted. Khaleda Zia is in a critical condition. What's next for Bangladesh?
Yeah. Look, as I said, there's no question of being held. If Sheikh Hasina returns to Bangladesh, she will be jailed as soon as her flight lands in Bangladesh. There'll be people waiting at the door of the aircraft to take her in custody. And from then on, they'll put death charges against her. I want to ask a simple question. When you got rioting mobs, when you got violent mobs that are killing people, mobs that are setting houses on fire, people on fire, if I may say so, and then what are you going to do about that? Are you going to hand out lollipops to them, or are you going to try and control them? And you control them, and then as a consequence, there is some loss of life, unfortunate of course, but the fact is violence, unfortunately, is often met with violence. And in any part of the world, you will see countries where people have shot at violent groups. Police, security personnel have shot at violent groups. You're seeing that happen in the United States, for example. I mean, it's now becoming almost an everyday situation that you have a major shooting, and very often the shooter is killed by security forces. Are you going to basically therefore put the head of the police in that particular city on trial for murder? Of course not. He's trying to protect the lives of citizens. That's what Sheikh Hasina was trying to do. She's made money, she's corrupt, she's maladministration is a fact, but the fact is that these riots were engineered, and they were engineered with the objective of bringing a new person in power who was more malleable to dictates of certain countries than Sheikh Hasina was. And as a consequence, Bangladesh, you can see, is now descending down the same well of, if I may say so, meltdown that Pakistan has entered some time back. And unfortunately, Bangladesh has joined Pakistan in going down the well of meltdown. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment, sir, and for joining us here at NewsX World. And with that, viewers, let's shift focus to some more